What is up, podheads? Back with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Anthony.
I'm here. What's up?
And Woodbra. What's up, brother?
What's happening, fellas? Thank you for having me here today.
Yes.
Is that your birth name?
Yes, actually.
Look, we're going to name him Woodbra.
You will forever be Woodbra. I know it's Robert. I know it's Woody. It's Woodbra. To me, it's Woodbra.
Yeah.
It's wood, bro.
Exactly. It's perfect. So, we've been online friends for quite some time, right? I mean, we've been back and forth on the old Instagram and sharing each other's stuff and listening to each other's stuff podcast-wise for, I want to say, pretty close to 5 years. So it's about time. We've been dancing around a Deftones themed episode for forever. You have a comp coming together here. Actually, when this drops, I think it'll be the Monday after the comp drops. So, yeah, so it's out. So we'll plug all that stuff in the show notes. But it was time to have you on, is the point here. That's my punchline.
I really appreciate it. It's we have been admirers, or at least I've been an admirer of yours for a long time. You put out the Frank Maddox episode like right around the time that I finally got him to agree to be on my shit. And I was like, oh my God. At first I was a little bit like, shit, somebody's already doing it. And I was like, actually, thank God somebody's talking to this dude, because I really don't know much about him other than the bulk of the Deftones stuff that he's done. So it was nice to actually have like a place to go to and get some research done.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I don't know how we haven't done, outside of having Sergio on and Frank on, we haven't really done a Deftones episode, which is crazy because they're one of our favorite bands. But I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. We have a Google Doc, and we had you penciled in for this episode before we even reached out.
That's right. I appreciate it. That's really right. It's an honor and a privilege. It's an honor and a privilege. Anytime I get to talk about Deftones, it's the most fun thing ever. But to talk about them with such disreputable gentlemen as yourselves, certainly a pleasure.
Well, I mean, changing the House of Pods. I was going to say the best Deftones pod. It might be the only one, but it is still the best.
I think you're right. It's pretty much the only one. I mean, at least as far as dedicated. And everybody always said, like, how are you going to spend like hours talking about one band? Like, I didn't know the answer, but I figured out early on that Deftones were really just the vehicle for the guests to tell their story, and that revelation made it a whole lot easier.
Yeah,
and a lot more fun, because you learn a lot of stuff about Deftones just through other people's like wild experiences, their concert experiences, or any number of things. Just the Deftones universe is real. There's definitely a full like constellation. You know what I mean? It revolves around them. Like everything, they have a huge reach and a huge orbit. Like they've touched so many people, and so many people are just so excited to talk about them all the time. That's really why it's kind of crazy that you guys haven't done like a full on.
I know.
Deftones episode. Like
we didn't want to touch it. I think that's what it was. Subconsciously, we're like, it's just like it's on a pedestal. We know it's fucking immaculate. We know it's amazing. Let's leave it. Let's not touch it.
It's kind of funny because I wasn't really sure if that was the case when I went into it. I kind of sort of thought it was going to be like my little niche, and there wasn't going to be this mass number of people. Like it was always just sort of me and my circle of friends that was into them. So to see now this like global eruption of young fans that have followed them, over the past 5 years has really happened since the pandemic, since we both started our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's been eye-opening and sort of surprising. And I'm sure I'm probably like in 20 years, if somebody ever decides to dig up my podcast, they're going to be like, "What? This guy's an idiot. Like, how did he not know they were
Yeah, I know, right?
Like coolest band or biggest band ever?" Like, but it's also been really nice and rewarding to see them get their due. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like to get the wider respect and praise that I think they've earned.
Well, and I saw them in, when was the Boston show? It was a few weeks back now. When this drops, probably like closer to like 8 weeks. But when they played Boston, they played the Garden, and that's 19,000 cap, and it was full. and we were texting back and forth with a buddy, friend of the podcast, Spose, who's an artist here in Maine. But he was like, "Are there a lot of kids there? Because I don't understand how they're playing the Garden." And I was like, "Bro, like 5 years ago, that would have been mind blowing to me. But I'm walking around this place, and there is, the gamut is our age down to high school kids, and all over the map, and people are into the band. And you're right. I think it's exploded in the last 5 years for sure."
I just hope that it goes deeper than like memes and TikToks. You know what I mean? Like that people want to do what you guys do. What I think that I tried to do, which is like, discuss them in an intellectual way to actually have real conversations about their place in history and to really consider the like not just the commercial aspects of their art, but like the actual like artistic influence that they've clearly had over a whole another generation of it. Like, not to mention like all the people that bit their shit in 2000.
Oh yeah.
But now like the people who are genuinely artistically like Deftones inspired me to create. Like that's
Deftones core. Yeah, there's a
You know
whole.
what I mean?
We
Like,
talked about it last week. There's a whole genre.
it is. It truly is.
The thing is, I think what will help them, and the timing is good, is I think that new album is going to come out this year, right? Isn't that the word?
We thought that last year too, though, right?
You guys want to know the release date? By the time this comes out,
I can cut it if it's not there. Don't worry.
it may have been announced. It might be announced by the time we might hear the first single by the time this comes out.
Wow. I love that. I was thinking about that today. I was in prep for this. I was like, that single, I feel like we should be getting soon.
I mean, fans have been wringing their hands for the longest time. I feel like some people are about ready to lose. There's 26, forget it. You know what I mean?
Right? It's already like middle of the year.
They're. I don't think Deftones have ever been more like a well-oiled machine than they are right now. Like they've been on their job, so it's cool.
I mean, you nailed that. Like there's a crop of Deftones fans that are big into it. Obviously, we are. We have this podcast. You probably, I don't know how many episodes you have of Changing the House of Pods, but you get a ton of them. They're streaming everywhere. If you have not listened to them and you're a fan of Deftones and you like what you hear from Woodbra, you're forever Woodbra, go check it out. Is it on all platforms?
Yeah, it's everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah. It's good shit. A lot of the guests I didn't even know were part of their world or were fans. So it was eye opening.
That's really cool. Thank you for that.
So the podcast I don't think is active, but the Deftones love continues, right? So what's your involvement with this Deftones comp?
So for the song you saved, a tribute to Deftones, is basically my brainchild. It came sort of naturally, organically out of the cover that I asked Marissa from Fleshwater to record for the third season. And I was just so hyped off of the way the cover came out that I was like, I need to extrapolate this. You know what I mean? I need to do this to the nth degree. And so that's where it came from. I sort of figured that at least between the artists that I knew from the podcast, that I had guests on the podcast, that I would be able to wrangle a couple of them. And I have, which has been great. Ryle, who did one of the Dias, I think the third Dia de los Deftones. They're from Salt Lake City. They did like an insane cover of Rats. If somehow you could make Rats heavier, like they achieved it, which is pretty wild.
Love it.
And then there's This Be the Verse, which is this guy from London. His name is Cyrus King. I found him during the first season of the podcast on Reverb, or actually I found him in the comments of YouTube. Some guy pointed me to Reverb because he was like, I met the guy. So at the end I'll back up. At the end of the Wembley show, Deftones' first trip to Wembley in 2003, Chino takes his guitar off his back and he just like launches it into the crowd, right? So in the comments on YouTube, this dude's like, I met the guy at Guitar Center or some shit, like who caught this guitar. He was trying to sell it on Reverb to fund his album. And I was like, damn. So I went and found the listing, reached out to him. He hadn't sold the guitar, which was pretty cool. But he was just wrapping up his album, and they're really cool. They're like very industrial. Like he's a big Nine Inch Nails fan as well. So if there's a cool amalgamation of like Nine Inch Nails and Deftones, that's where This Be the Verse falls. And they've done a really he did
I'm
like a
in.
dance cover of Elite. It's super fun. So it's cool to get these artists involved. And then early on, I asked Andrew Sahak, who is the vocalist for Unstable Shapes out of Minneapolis here, if he was interested. He brought on Brad Gunnarsson, who just changed the name of his label, I believe, to Cardinal Sun
I
Records.
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Brad's been in the music industry for a long time. He's a good buzz. He's good buzz with a lot of people, and so he really helped bring this whole thing together and help us snag a couple bands. He's even put together his own like sort of super group of Minneapolis artists to do a cover of Teenager for the album. I
Love
believe
it.
the bass player from Soul Asylum is recording,
Nice.
mixing it. Like it's been like a fun project. Everybody's taken ownership of it, which has been really cool to see. And I just sort of get to be like a proud dad, like on Christmas morning. Anytime we get a song, I'm just like excited to open it up,
That's fun.
check it out. It's been a treat, man. It's been really cool. So yeah, we're gonna do it, and then all the benefits, all the proceeds that we make from the digital stream, and the we're gonna do a short run of CDs later this summer. But all the proceeds will go to Oasis for Youth, which is an organization in the suburbs of Minneapolis here in Bloomington, who works with young people who are at risk of or experiencing homelessness. And it's just a really great organization where they have totally created a community for young people who, when you find yourself without a home or without a steady home environment, I mean, a lot of things are going wrong. You know what I mean? So to be able to provide a place for them to feel welcome and it's just a great organization with great people. So it's really and my wife is involved with the organization as well. So it's really just been another way like Deftones have sort of brought me to this sort of another chapter. You know what I mean? A new network of people and friends, and then it's really like it's so crazy. Like it's all because I'm just chasing Deftones.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's
Love it.
really it's super nerdy, but it's been so rewarding. So it's like I can't, you know what I mean? I can't not do it. Like it's been awesome. It's been really great. So yeah, for the song you saved, is available exclusively on Bandcamp, June 20th. For the song you saved.bandcamp.com. You can find us on Instagram as well at for the song you saved.
I'll toss that in the show notes too. So there'll be you can
Oh,
click
okay,
right
cool.
on.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
the at will be there, and if you found us on Instagram, the ad will be in the post and all that stuff too. So
Excellent.
we'll collab with it. Why not?
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's really exciting, man. Like I never would have in a million years thought I was going to put out a Deftones record, but here we are.
Here we are.
Now you're part of the lore, man.
That would be something. I'm excited for them to hear it. You know, it's White Pony 25. It's Chino's 52nd. It means a lot to be able to do it, to bring all these different artists together to be a part of it. They are all excited about it. So like, and I know Deftones love discovering music, and they're gonna hear their pal Jeff from Willhaven singing like beautifully. Like the cover that he does of Anniversary of an Uninteresting Event is it's a trip, man. You know, Will
I'm
Haven is
excited
the
to hear that. Yeah.
heavy ass, you know what I mean? It's Will Haven. And now you've got this totally other end of the spectrum of the musical experience that he's brought out with his new project. It's called Foreign Film. And it's just him and the piano, and it's like super cinematic, is how I would put it. I think maybe how he put it. But yeah, it's such a treat to like experience these songs in a new way.
I think it's fun for everyone. I think it's obviously fun for the organization. It's fun for Deftones fans to listen. I would also think it's fun for the bands because Deftones, I'm not a musician. I can't imagine they're an easy band to cover.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like you got to kind of have some balls to
Yeah,
like just do
absolutely.
it. You know what I mean? I'm super critical. Like I'm a dick about some people who are out there like McGlocky. I don't like that shit, man. I'm sure
Oh,
he's
right
a
on.
nice
Yeah.
kid. I'm sure he's a well-intentioned human being, But when he does that little mix of, all right, to me, that sort of contributes to the TikTokishness that I was alluding to, that I sort of want to pivot from. And perhaps there is some artistry in what he does, but yeah, that shit kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's, you know, whereas, you know, there was another band who did a cover recently that was sort of making the rounds, and they did like a pop cover of Summer or something like that. It was like I don't remember what the name of the band. It was like a weird. They had a really funny band name, but it was great. You know, I feel like somewhat objective or subjective. Objective, I think, is the right word in terms of, you know, just how I'm experiencing these covers. But I genuinely think like a lot of these artists like made the songs their own. You know,
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like what you want from a cover, unless you just have one of those like, you know, like big ass Jennifer Hudson type voices, and then you can say like, okay, I can cover Aretha. You know what I mean?
Right. I can cover Whitney.
You know what I mean? Or Whitney, right? Like, otherwise, I sort of feel like Deftones are one of those artists that is like, you kind of have to approach cautiously. Like, it's not easy.
Yeah, and don't do it, you know, note for note cover. Like, you have to come with something different. You have to be.
You can.
Yeah, it's hard to, first of all, probably, and secondly, like, you've got to put a little spin on it and have a little fun with it, because I think I would assume that they would want that, because they're, you know, music nerds too, and want to hear you know, something different, a different spin on what they've put together.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's another reason that this whole thing sort of felt right to do, is because I know how much music Deftones have put me onto just by way of being a fan of theirs, how many artists they've introduced me to. So it sort of feels like it's in that spirit, in a sense, like the spirit of discovery and, you know, connecting with new types of music via the band that you like. You know what I mean? Like, that's hopefully that's a like a tenet of their artistry that we're tapping into. That sounded like some deep shit. I just came up with that.
Yeah, I love it.
Tenet of their artistry.
Well, and it gives them.
What kind of weed is this?
It gives those artists who are attempting the cover a place for people to find them, right? Like, okay, I heard you do a cover of whatever, and now I'm going to go back and, you know, I dug it. I'm going to, you know, I like your voice, I like the arrangement, whatever. Let's go check this band out or check this artist out and see if I like more of their stuff. That's the reason to do that stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, ideally that's the goal, is to really put people onto, you know, Minneapolis has a killer music scene. Not that all of our artists are from here, but at least half. And it still, I wouldn't say, is like a big music scene. You know what I mean? You don't hear about a ton of artists coming from Minneapolis. I mean, there are certainly names and notable ones and bands who come through that we support like crazy. But again, it's still like, you know, when people think about Minneapolis music, they still think about like Husker Du. You know what I mean? Like, it's the Replacements. Like, it goes back that way. But there are great bands here now, and there have been. You know what I mean? So hopefully it even gets more people just excited about checking out bands that they haven't seen before, like just new stuff, and not just going to see the same artist, like going to see Deftones 3 times in the spring and then planning to see them at least 2 more in the summer and fall.
Yeah, no one does.
Well,
that.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
He's got to make the rich richer, baby. I'm just trying to feed their families.
Yeah.
They got kids to put through college, man. We gotta put them kids through school.
We had a couple of artists from your neck of the woods on earlier this year. So we had Ant from Atmosphere, and we had Brother Ali, who is not there anymore, but was there when he was coming up. So
Brother Ali, I love the spark. Man, I love that.
Dude,
Ali.
I just like it. That was a great impression.
He's my favorite rapper from
so good.
Minneapolis, far and away. Like, I was never a big Atmosphere guy. I don't know. They were just not in my lane when I was exposed to them. But Brother Ali is that guy for sure. Yeah, I saw when you guys had him, I was like, oh shit.
Shocked we got him, and he was awesome. So, and that new record that came out this year is great too. So
that's so rad.
Satisfied soul.
That's
so changing the House of Pods onto for the song you saved, which is coming out. Actually, Tony, when will this episode drop? Will it already be out?
Yeah, I think it came out Friday, the 20th, right? June 20th. Yeah. So in case this comes out before that, I don't think it's going to, because I think next Monday is already spoken for. But this is going to be right around when it comes out. If it's the 23rd, which I think it'll drop that day, go check it. It's on Bandcamp right now.
It's a hell of a thing to do. I love that you had the idea and you actually did it, because most people don't do it on both of those, right? You had the podcast idea, the comp idea. I don't know what's next, but what's next for us is 25 years of White Pony.
You do know what's next. It's right now. It's 25 years of White Pony.
25 years of White Pony.
I saw you're wearing your red pony shirt. I'm wearing a green one right now. Got my green pony out.
I had to hit him with it.
You know what I'm
this
saying?
Is from
my red one's
year 2000.
Embarrassingly tight.
I'm surprised Anthony's wearing his. Yeah,
it's a medium. I mean, it's a muscle shirt. I don't have many muscles, but it's a muscle shirt.
Is that OG? That's actually from 2000?
It is. It's a giant brand.
That's impressive.
I think it's like 150, 200 on eBay if you were to go down that route, which, hey, I'd sell it for $3 bells. If you're listening, size medium.
You got kids to put through college too,
there's
right?
some cracking in the ink here, but it's solid.
That's called character.
Character.
Yeah.
People pay extra for that shit.
It's got a little bit. Yeah, $3.15.
Yeah. So 25. Terry Date produced LP3. LP3 is a big LP for a lot of bands. So Woodbro, were you a fan of these guys in the moment?
I was a fan, certainly by no means as rabid a fan. I was still very much into hip hop, and pop was peak at that time. So I certainly loved me some NSYNC and some Britney and all of that stuff. But I think it was probably like the second like really big step in my fandom.
Yeah.
I think like everybody else, like Digital Bath was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoa. So yes, I was a fan, but not by no means as big a fan as I ultimately have become.
You didn't know you're going to have a podcast and put out a quarter century later? No?
It was definitely, though, the one that I think pivoted me into like, all right, Chino's going to be my style icon, and I'm going to like start jocking this guy's whole swag. And that has pretty much remained the same for 25 years.
Yeah. He's good at that. I mean, everything down to the name, to the cryptic nature of him, his outfits, his stage presence. Like there was, and the way he would just kind of bend over, like all the shots in Circus Mag and Hit Parader, like Tony, me, you, and Nate, we all had that shit plastered on our wall. And he was the blueprint, and everyone jacked it.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. You guys had Rob on from Hoobastank. I was like, when they came out, I was like, this fucking knockoff Deftones bullshit. And then I ended up really liking Hoobastank. I'm not going to say really liking Hoobastank, but I was like, I respect these dudes. I fuck with them. But man, it made me mad too, because then like they got bigger than Deftones seemingly, right? Like the
moment, yeah, for sure.
I mean, in that moment, like it's sort of funny. Like I sometimes wonder, like, how big were they? How big was I into them? I mean, obviously they moved me in a huge way, but it's interesting to try to gauge like the actual in-time impact, I feel like, of Pony, like in real time.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, because I mean, looking back on it, even 5 years ago when it hit 20 and they put that like the big 20th anniversary package together, then you were like, holy shit, this record was massive. It was massive for our tastes as music fans in the time, but in the subsequent years, and now 25 of them have passed, and it's what you point to for a lot of different things as far as like maybe what you like from music, how it is presented to you. I mean, they do it better than most when it comes to just presentation, be it the cryptic nature of the band, be it the visuals that, you know, Frank Maddox puts together. It's in the moment, it was hard to see that was going to be so enduring, but I mean, here we are, right?
Dude, that's well put. I mean, even think about like when they released that internet, they did the internet show. They did a fucking live stream. How many bands were doing live stream in 2000?
Not many, yeah.
No.
You know?
On Mark Cuban's broadband.com. I mean, there was very little streaming, you know? And even, I think they were hot early on the enhanced CD stuff too. Like, obviously they had a camp, you know, that was behind them, but I think they were a driving force with all of that too. You know, you get the music, you get Maddox, who, you know, maybe wasn't a cheat code in the moment, it ended up being a cheat code. And then you have all these different things that they did, right? The streaming, the enhanced CD stuff. Like it was To answer your question, I don't think it felt that. I mean, I was 15, but I didn't feel that in the moment. It was just like,
hard.
This is a cool band. I'm wearing. They're the only band that could get me to buy a T-shirt with a pony on it. Facts.
That's real truth.
That's you know, like, but they had it going on, and they were early on it. And Tony, we knew each other when this dropped, and we were fans. Were you? I always say this. You were not a fan.
I mean, I wasn't not a fan of Deftones. I wasn't as into Deftones as I was going to end up being. Like,
right on. Yeah.
I remember some of this happening. I more remember when Self-Titled dropped, and that's when I was like, I'm going to pay attention now. And I jumped in pretty heavily at that point. What was that, 2003? So that was really when my like big time fandom of the band started. I'm more of a fan today than I think I was then, but at the time, listening to a lot of rock radio, working jobs where I had the radio on all the time, I was like, Deftones is a band that I need to go backwards on, you know? And that was probably when I really dug into White Pony, a couple years after it came out. Not in the moment. I'm not gonna pretend. You know, I can't pretend.
Whenever we do these, I feel like I come across as like the dude that was there from the demo. You know, that guy. I'm not that guy. I mean, I was.
That was Nate, who's not here with us tonight, but he is here in spirit because I could hear him saying, "I was there when this dropped."
But I was there when this dropped. I was a fan of middle school. Shout out our buddy Mills. He was he bleached his hair. He fucking loved Deftones. He loved Korn, and he loved Limp Bizkit. And he was there around the Fur Days. And I was a fan. Like, I was a moderate fan. Like, to me, Deftones in that era, back when they had the T-shirt with the 8-ball on it, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
In that era, they were just kind of another band. Like, it wasn't like the fandom that I have now. They were a cool band, but I think this elevated them, not only with, like, the general public, but my view, too. Like, I was more into White Pony than the previous releases. Digital Bath was, like, a trip, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I looked at. Apparently, that wasn't a formal single.
No, I don't think it was it?
Yeah, promotional single according to the internet.
But they had a video. I remember the video.
Yeah.
Was that on MTV? Digital Bath?
I'm sure it was on 120 Minutes.
Had to have been, right?
Yeah.
If they shot a video for it, I'm sure it made its way to MTV at some point. I don't know if it was right in the moment, but had to have been.
Yeah. I almost feel like I can remember seeing the video. And I want to say they might have had something on because I was working at Circuit City when it came out. And I feel like they might have had a video in one of those rotating videos that they just play, that they used to play.
Yeah.
On the TVs and shit. Yeah.
Shout out Circuit City.
Yeah.
I know. R.I.P. Right? That's gone.
Circuit City. Yeah. Where service was state of the art. But yeah, I think something about all of that we're sort of dancing around a little bit, you know, how cool they were, how substantial the music was, the fact that maybe we were aware of them, but not totally aware of how great they would be or how much we would love them. I mean, that had to have been like fed by Pony. Like Pony probably manifested that, right? Like there's
had to have.
Yeah, 100%.
When we go back and we talk about how important that album is, a lot of times I feel like it's about the different things that they might have done, or that they weren't just so heavy, or that Chino was soft and they did some ambient things. You know, those are definitely descriptive things that speak to ultimately what would lead to be just the influence and the impact and like how lasting those things would be for the band, for sure.
And music in general, alternative metal in general.
I mean, you look at Sleep Token right now, right? Like everybody points to Sleep Token, or can easily point to Sleep Token as not just doing it in a way that feels sort of niche, but like in the most consumer driven,
a huge scale,
big business. Yeah. I mean, this is corporate money. This is, you know what I mean? There's a lot of money in that whole machine, and their whole sound is predicated on things that Deftones did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of wild. Yeah, Pony was and remains, I feel like, just maybe the timeless like record from its era. You know what I mean? Like I can't say that any other album really touches Pony in terms of just its timelessness, its everlasting quality. But
I
then
agree.
again, I am a super nerd about the band, so I would say.
Yeah.
Well, I think it stands on its own, but as soon as like fans, and whether it be fans or Pitchfork, who Pitchfork gave this album a great fucking review, but
Shocked me.
But like once that's a thing, everyone kind of pig piles on it. It's like that's the album, and then everyone's like, well, that's the album. In most cases, it's warranted. In some cases, it's not. This is one that obviously is. But now, like, White Pony's a thing. But I think this has the chops to back it.
Well,
like,
yeah, absolutely. It has, and it had to, right?
Right. It is total standalone. Like, take Sleep Token. I don't know much about them really. I know they're
careful.
I know they're a dedicated group. I will say they have Deftones like fandom in terms of, some.
They came after me on the internet once, so I was just messing around. But well, yeah, the fans can be a lot.
They're like,
it's fine. Whatever, the music's fine.
But like, even the album, it's just a pony, right? There's no Deftones White Pony. It's standalone. Like it was commercial. Yeah, Change was on TRL, all this shit. But I don't know. In major label, I'm talking on both sides of my mouth, but it stands alone, I think, as its own piece of art. And I think there's enough there, aside from the singles, which I'm sure we'll get to, but I'm with you. It's timeless. You wouldn't know that it came off the heels of, quote unquote, a new metal era or new metal release. Yeah. Really. You really wouldn't.
Yeah, totally.
Unless you were there in the moment.
I mean, were it not for Back to School, which I still think is amazing how, supposedly the band hates it or Chino hates it, but, they'll play it. It's awesome.
It's still a banger.
It bangs.
I think it's
still love it.
I think it's an all-time Deftones song. I don't know that it makes sense where they put it on the album.
No, maybe not. But
sure.
I think the lasting power of that song is there. Like I don't skip that. Where no. I actually tend to skip Digital Bath. I never skip Change, but Back to School. It's funny. It's like, a band's that fucking good when they're like getting pressure and that's the output. You know what I mean? That's like, we're going to satisfy the suits, but we're going to still hit you with a bang.
And they're like, give us that radio-ish, single-ish song, right? And they're like, okay, well, we have a song on the record that does this a little bit. It's slower and a little more brooding. We'll speed it up, make it amazing. It'll fucking crush. And maybe we don't love it, but this is what you wanted. Here you go. Here's a 10 out of 10. Bye.
When was the last time they played it live?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I don't think I've seen it in a while.
I don't think I've seen it. I don't know. I've only seen them 3 or 4 times, but
it's pretty easy for them anymore. I mean, I think the set list from the spring was
so
untouchable. Good. It was, I mean, the only one I felt like the crowd was a little bit curious about was Prayers Triangles. But as a Gorehead, like, I'm totally down for anything Gore. But I mean, that whole 90 minutes was nuts to butts. The hits, like they could give you another 35 minutes of
easy
bangers,
like just big ass songs that you love. And that's sort of, I mean, they're a catalog band. That's their thing. Like, they've got just that many songs, which is also why it's sort of, I don't know, at times a little cringy when people just talk about Pony. Like, it's certainly worthy of the praise and all those things, but it does make me wring my hands a little bit. Like, they got 9 others that are gangster, right?
Yeah, really good records. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, I think this needed to happen for them to do those. They could end up, taking the chances. Maybe they took on Gore, Saturday Night Wrist after that they wouldn't have been able to do had they not put this forth first. So that's probably why people do that. But you're right. They do have, there's just so many songs. There's so many albums. That's
probably why they did Back to School, right? Like, the same reason. Like, all right, everybody says we need this, we did this. And then after that, I'm sure, had the most leash and license, although I guess Self-Titled it's like one of the most expensive records of all time because they just took so much time on it. Yeah, it's like Chinese Democracy and Self-Titled. Yeah, crazy.
I'm curious what you think about, like, the sonic, I'm not even gonna say change, but like the sonic evolution, because
I have a question about this. Nice. I have a question for both of you.
They add Delgado full time. Chino starts playing a little guitar. you know, and like we said, they're coming off the heels of what people would, I guess, traditionally call new metal. You've talked with a million people in the Deftones world. I don't know if how much White Ponies come up, but like, has there been any talk about that sonic change of like, was it just growth? Was it intentional? Was it they were listening to a fucking lot of Robert Smith, like, or yeah, Robert Smith or Morrissey, like, because this song's on this, like, I don't know, Teenager that wouldn't fit on
Never,
the albums before.
Right, wouldn't have,
you know, wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's 100% intentional. It was totally a creative choice, and I feel like one that they committed to do during the touring cycle, when they were doing the House of Fur tour, and they started like introducing little snippets of like Pink Maggot into, I think, Furial, or just little things like that when they, you know, I think they could feel the anticipation and the expectations that were being placed on them going into album 3. So like they knew they had to do something else. And I think too, like, you know, Chino's like, I think, a pretty committed artist. He wants to spread his wings and do things. Yeah. And of course, you know, that was around the time too. It was shortly after the release of Pony when he had to get surgery. So I'm sure there was some lead up to that. Like, dude, I can't scream my head off forever. Like, I got to sing some songs. You know what I mean? I'm sure there was at least a little of that, like, by necessity. You know, there's something about the timing and all of the different factors that were at play that I think it's maybe it would be a little presumptuous to say any one thing is what made this what it is. But I think all of those things had a little bit to do with, you know, what ultimately became White Pony.
Well, and this is the question that I thought of today while driving around listening to it. This is the start. Do you guys, let's see if you agree with me. This is the start of sexy Deftones, right? This is where we get that kind of smoother kind of.
Well, what about Mascara though? What about Mascara?
But there's more of it here. Like there's I think there's a deliberate choice
lean into it on this one for sure.
Pull more people under the tent, as I like to say. You know, like
more ladies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is so cool. Like, I'm sorry, I want, as a fan of music, to know that chicks are rocking to this as well. Like,
hell yeah.
Sometimes if, you know, it's really heavy shit and I can anticipate, like, you know, my wife's not going to want to check this out. Like, okay. But like when you pull up to a Deftones show and you see mad femininas, it's cool, man. It's everybody. That's what's great about Deftones too, is they bring in such an eclectic crowd. It's so great. But yeah, I think the sexy has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, well, and it proved they could do it too. Like, and bands have been trying to emulate that vibe from them, and not just the sound, the vibe. Since they pulled it off with, well, I think the start of it really was maybe Mascara, but the start of it, like it being a focus for the band, I think is this record.
It's sort of wild to think about, like, because rock bands have been becoming rock bands forever, and the goal has always been to get chicks, but nobody ever really did it like they did it. Like, maybe I'm sure others have, but in this world of heavy guitar driven music, you know, for somebody to come out and start swooning and crooning.
Well, there's one big difference. You had the Motley Crue's Girls, 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 where it was intentional. Where this, I don't think maybe it was, but it wasn't overtly.
You're right.
You know, it was a little more subtle, less out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a byproduct of the natural sexiness.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
They're just putting it out there, right? They're just seeing if people pick up what they're putting down, and they did.
A lot of bands love to perform, and you know, Chino being influenced by, you know, Depeche Mode and, you know, bands like that who were sexy, who were singing sexy stuff. Like,
name any song by that band. Say it ain't so. Well, it's funny. In the car, I'll play like heavy music for my wife, who's not into heavy music, and
she must love that. My wife loves it too.
Well, I'll cover the screen, and this is a long going joke. I'll cover the screen. I'll say, guess who this is, knowing she has no fucking clue. Well, anyway, I've been listening to a lot of this record leading up to this, and I put on Change, and I cover the screen, and before I can open my mouth, she goes, I know who this is. It's Deftones, and I blew my mind.
Nice.
She's not a Deftones head at all. But it shows you this album in particular for them, it permeated. I mean, she's not going to know Mascara. She's not going to know Be Quiet and Drive. She's not going to know Head Up.
She's not going to know Passenger, probably.
Not going to know Passenger, but Change. I mean, it was a TRL song.
Yeah, it was a TRL song. It was like the song from the Queen of the Damned, right? Like it was, I think the main, maybe it was the song during the credits or something, but in a movie full of songs that Jonathan Davis sang, like the lasting memory that I have is of Change being in that, not of any of the other songs that Lestat was singing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is, yeah. And it's always interesting. Like, obviously, I know Change is such a great song, but I kind of think Digital Bath is a better song.
Ooh.
And I kind of like,
it's close.
I kind of like Fate to Sierra maybe more than all of them. I kind of think Korea is like the quintessential Deftones song. Like there's so many choices on that album. Elite won a fucking Grammy.
Yeah. I know. It's got the which classic is kind of crazy, Deftones right? Guitar.
It's crazy.
Well, and I fucking love Knife Party. I just love it. I love the fucking chaotic nature of the end of it. It's, you could pick any one of these, and yeah, absolutely.
Well, like we were talking earlier, like Fate to Sarah is that, to me, that is like the perfect opening track, which most fans don't know that was. I would assume, and I don't know whose idea it was to put Back to School number one. I wouldn't have done that.
I think it was a label.
Had to
have been, right?
Mistake. Somebody had to, yeah. That Back to School is out there and more well known than The Boys Republic is, to me, that speaks to the power of commerce and advertising and all of the money that went into trying to make Pony a success.
Yeah, and that's the more we do this now, having been around for pushing 300 episodes, the more I see that in my day-to-day, perusing of the internet. I'm like, oh, they're pushing that on me. Oh, they're pushing. And like, I always kind of knew it, but being way more involved in some of the pushing of said things, you're like, damn, like it's... Damn,
they don't want to come talk to me unless they got a record coming out?
Yeah, yeah. And they don't want to talk to us because we're not big enough to push said record. So like, yeah, it's crazy, man. But
you want our numbers? You ain't getting them.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I gave some very unimpressive numbers out to a couple artists, though, that still said yes. And that's, as much as I want to hate the game, there's still some pretty cool players.
So many. Absolutely.
In that game. So it does make it worthwhile when they step up and they come through for you. But yeah, it is. It's a game, man. The whole business of making a record, getting a record on a radio, it's money. It's a lot of money, and the people who put that money up want to make that money back.
Yep, they do, and they want to make some extra on top of it.
You know what I'm saying? And Deftones know that. Otherwise, I'm sure at this point they could probably just release records themselves. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? They've probably cleared hundreds of millions of dollars, I would imagine, over the last tour, just the first leg of the North American tour. They could afford to do it, but the machine's got the real money, and they make that thing work. So you roll with it. It is what it is.
Yeah, and they played a little bit with this album, like with the Back to School thing. But beyond that, this is not, it feels like it was on their terms. Like it just, because, I mean, think about, like, you play the What If game, bands of their ilk in the era, they were going, like, Follow the Leader, Korn was LP3, right? You had Self-Titled, you had Life is Peachy, then Follow the Leader. Like, that was it still was Korn, but it was very different. You know what I mean?
Korn commercial.
Biscuit. I'm not lumping Biscuit in them, but LP3 was Chocolate Starfish.
Yes, I was going to say Chocolate Starfish.
You know what I mean? It's like, bands were doing some fucking weird shit.
Roland, you're not riding for Roland right now?
No, I am, but it's very different, right?
Well, it's commercial. It's all
it's commercial, and that's the point.
Stuff. Yeah.
And I don't know, we could play that game on and on, but LP3 for bands of, it was kind of a make or break, right? Because there's LP3s that, just didn't get it done. This did. And that's the thing, is like, say Deftones went that route, they wouldn't be playing the Garden in 2025.
Right. Yeah, they would have had a hard time putting together the tour they just put together, because they probably would have been maybe they come back with something that's cool, but then after that maybe fizzle out because they're trying to reach the highs that they reached of the the machine stuff instead of just being Deftones and putting out music that they want to make.
Yeah, it's really it's a unfortunate symptom of a lot of the bands of that era, of that time, is now they are just nostalgia bands. But because Deftones have managed to finally dance on that line, well, especially with Pony, of art and commerce. I mean, just to elevate it to the degree that they have, and like you said, it's they get the Maddox in there, and they've got fucking Terry Date, coming back for the third time. Like there are a lot of things that lead to that, but authenticity and integrity for sure, maintaining their artistic point of view, those are crucial. Those are crucial to their ongoing success for sure.
Well, they're a band that, like, think of it, that time period, 2000. Like, that was when every major label was looking for like the next new metal thing. You get bands like, I don't know, name them, Reveille, Shovel, like all these rap metal bands where like Deftones had been doing it for a while. They had a strong foothold in that Sacramento scene, right? You mentioned Will Haven earlier. You mentioned, Far, and Chino was on the Strife album, like all these. So if you come from that world, I think there's still enough here for you in this album. Then you layer in the TRL ism, that whole thing. And then you get people like my wife who's into it. It's like, this is, I don't know. It's a rare record. And it actually, looking back, it doesn't surprise me of the stranglehold that it still has. Although I'm going to say something a little bit that'll kind of counter that, but
we'll say it now. You can't
leave
bated breath.
That's why I said it, to leave you guys hanging. No, I mean, I've been listening to this album for 25 years, on and off. Like, I would say there hasn't been 1 year where I have not listened to this. Like, I've listened to it regularly. But I will say the gap between this and, like, I'm a Koi guy, I'm a Diamond Eyes guy, Tony, we're on the same page. The gap isn't that big. I'm telling you. The gap, like, those late albums, I mean, I'm not going to say they're on the same playing field, like, but it's close. It's closer than you think.
I think Koi's my favorite Deftones record, so
well,
I'm not going to hear an argument from me on that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and that again is sort of why I get a little uncomfortable when people only talk about Pony, because there is so much that the other shit. I'm a huge Ohms fan. I think Ohms might be
great. Yep.
Their best overall, like, front to back work. I mean, it's great. They just always are great. They're just always great. And that maybe that takes away, or could be argued that it takes away from Pony, but you still have to think like Pony kind of opened the door for them to do the rest of those records.
Absolutely.
Like if Pony hadn't been a success, like you said, like it allows the rest of those other things. So you have to shine a light on the original. Even though there are a lot of people who swear that Around the Fur is still their favorite, I think they too have to acknowledge the greatness of Pony. And it's almost like a given at this point. It's like, yeah, Pony changed. Yes, they're the best. It's the best.
Well, those are the people that started around the Fur, right? Like that.
100%.
That's an age thing, right? You were you were probably 10th grade when that came out. You know what I mean? It's just like your buddy gave it to you, your older brother gave it to you. You're like, holy shit, who is this band? Yeah. And that wasn't us because we were just a little too young for it. So it was Pony for us. So we were sophomores in high school, right? When this dropped.
Freshman.
I was a senior, so
yeah, perfect. That was me with self-titled. So
I was living that life. I was living the Pony life already at that point. I was slaying chicks and driving convertibles and in Hollywood and doing cocaine.
Hell yeah.
No, I wasn't doing any of those things.
Us either.
I was working at Circuit City. But dude, I remember the dudes in the warehouse at Circuit City bumping it. You know what I mean? Like everybody, I think, has been touched by the album. If you have become like a rock music fan and you haven't like gotten into it, I mean, the way that people talk to me about Digital Bath and just like the quality of the sound and the production and how like it's the perfect drum sound and like different things like that, like it's deep. like it's deep. There are just so many different things that you can get into and choose from that are part of its greatness.
Well, and I think this is where, when I think of the guitar sound of Deftones, I think this is where my head goes. Even if it's different in different spaces, I think this is where you're like, okay, that's what they sound like. So I think they had honed in what they wanted to sound like as a band by album 3, and they're like, nobody else sounds like this. This tone is us. Nobody else can pull off this guitar tone, this drum tone, and what we're trying to pull off here. And there wasn't really anybody else. There've been millions of copies, but their sound is their sound, and I don't think anybody else can really touch that.
Well, I think you get it on Elite and Streetcar. Like, though, to me, those are the quintessential. That's My Own Summer. That's fucking 7 Words. That's fucking Bored. Like, to me, that's what I go back to. Like, there's enough here. If you're, like you say, you're a around the fur truther. Like, there's enough here. Yeah, you might be out on digital. You might be out on Teenager. You might be out on, maybe you fucking hate Tool, and you're like, I'm out on Passenger. But I think there's enough heavy here.
How can you be out on Passenger? Fucking A.
Yeah, I'm a little out on Passenger. I'm not out.
Really?
Oh man.
But I did. I'm just. I got to enjoy. I eventually became such a fan of the way Chino would sing the whole song, like when he would do it live, that it started to just piss me off to hear Maynard. And plus, because Tool is so beloved,
Sure.
that's another reason that I have to like go against the grain, I guess. I don't know.
That's all right.
But that's just me being a hater more than anything.
I appreciate you owning the hate, because not a lot of people will.
Hey, haters make the world go around, man.
True.
Well, I heard something about this song years ago. I don't know who said it. I don't know what context it was, but they observed that you can't really tell where Chino and Maynard, the transition is in the voice. Like, if you weren't versed in their vocals, you might think it's the same person. And that's just, I remember like isolating on that, like the vocal transition is fucking crazy.
It's really impressive that their vocals are so complimentary, honestly, and that they haven't done more duets.
It just made me want more. Yep.
Like that, you know what I mean? Like, can't think of any other records where another vocalist is guested on the album. I mean, I guess that's a pretty short list. If you just got Maynard from Tool, like, you probably leave it there. I don't know. They could get anybody at this point.
Well, wasn't there an article or something, an interview with Maynard fairly recently? It was out that he kind of shit on this.
I think
that sounds like Maynard.
I think Maynard's generally inclined to shit on things.
It's just what he does. Yeah.
That song, Know Your Enemy, hated that one too.
Yeah.
You know?
Another
It's
amazing like random spot where he pops up, right? I mean,
no question. You know what? This also just maybe think of, although, because there is a Scott Weiland appearance on this record, supposedly.
which was uncredited.
Right?
I didn't know that till today.
I didn't know until today. I'll
Really?
hand up. Didn't know until today.
I mean, I still haven't heard it.
I know.
I can't. Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah.
And I've been listening for it for at least 10 years or 5 maybe since this information has come out. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's awesome. I wish I could hear him more, because it makes me a little upset too. Like, all these artists got the stems for the remix album 5 years ago. They didn't beef up the Scott Weiland vocals.
Right? Like just one of them.
Isolate
Fine.
it. Let us hear it. Let us.
Weiland was the feature king, right? Didn't he? Those Limp
He was
Bizkit
on Limp
songs.
Bizkits, yeah. He was
yeah.
on.
I want to say he
on,
had to have written or at least arranged some of those songs. Man, those were great. Those were some of my favorite Limp Bizkit songs. Those Scott Weiland.
I would agree. Yep.
Super good.
Yeah, I learned that today in my research. I was like, no shit, and I've never heard it either. Like, I've listened to that song I don't know how many fucking times, and I couldn't pull it. I'm gonna listen to it a little closer now, but I wouldn't be able to pull it.
All in an effort just to try to keep him sober, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then, like, which is also funny because apparently, like, this was the era when Deftones started really getting into drugs. So that is sort of ironic to me that somebody was like, "Hey, let's
put all these
I know
guys
a
together."
good idea."
Yeah, the name of the record's White Pony.
It's
Scott,
literally-
come on. Come on.
It's literally a drug reference.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, at least. But yeah, that shit's super funny. And I still haven't heard the Scott Weiland.
If you listen to this podcast, you know I listen to the Axe to Grind podcast. We've had Tom Sheehan on. Shout out Tom. But they did a mailbag episode recently. And one of the fan questions was, what are some, like, they call them leap records, where bands like really leaped. And whenever any episode like that, I play along at home, and I'm like, fucking Deftones, White Pony. Like that is a leap record if there ever was one. It actually could be my favorite leap record, where bands just, whether it's intentional or natural growth, whatever it is, I think this one stands out.
I would agree with you. I definitely. Yeah. I mean, especially with the benefit of 25 years of having it as part of our lives, and be a record that has been so lauded and celebrated by both Deftones fans and just music fans alike. Because I think a lot of people, if you like any sort of rock, metal, alternative music, you have a band that you listen to regularly that has taken from Deftones. Like, absolutely. And probably because of this record.
That's so awesome. That's so cool.
It really is.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know a lot of people that were, and certainly not close friends, that were like fans of this band. It's so cool to think that they have become that. It was so cool, like, seeing them just in the spring and like selling out these arenas across the country. It's like, God, man, like, this band was going to be a club band forever. I thought they would. Who knew? Who knew? All thanks to a couple of TikToks or whatever it is. Although, to your point, though, like some huge artists have come out and voiced their fandom. Like, I know The Weeknd specifically cited White Pony as an inspiration for House of Balloons. Billie Eilish, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of artists who have cited Deftones at this point. I guess that sort of makes sense that the younger generation would catch on.
Well, and if I was 18 or 16 right now and I was an aspiring musician and I liked music that had guitars, this is a record that you would have to consume. You'd have to be like, that's huge. That record was huge, and it's still, talked about, lauded, whatever, that today. That's something that I need to find out why. And maybe I'm pulling from it, and a lot of them do. I mean, that's where we're at. So
I like how upfront they are, though. I mean, a lot of the bands, even some of the stuff that like hits our inbox, for fans of Deftones or whatever, you'll see a Deftones t-shirt, right? You'll see, like, actually, we talked about Poison the Well, opposite of December. Like, when right before they toured with Deftones, you'd see Jeff in, I think, this shirt that I'm wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
totally.
And they were, for a lot of bands, it was not, Deftones weren't even from their world, and there was just respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember a lot of, like, a number of different pictures or times that Fred Durst wore a different Deftones shirt. He always had a Deftones shirt on. And Limp Bizkit eventually becoming so huge, like, had to have helped Deftones as much as that probably makes Chino like bristle.
For sure.
I know that had to have helped them. And then Linkin Park coming up behind them and becoming even bigger than Limp Bizkit somehow. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder often, like, if that really pissed them off. Like, if they never, because, okay, if you made these decisions to commercialize or to make your album a little bit more marketable or hopefully reach more people, and then you see Nookie come out, Significant Other, or you see, Hybrid Theory, where the bands that you have directly influenced are, being catapulted to superstardom, also probably partially at least on like the strength of your album lifting the whole genre.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Oh yeah.
I wonder how salty they get about that shit. I would be, I mean, maybe not at this point, but I bet back in the day they were
back in the day. Yeah. I bet in 2001 they were like, "What the fuck?"
They were like,
"What?"
we just
honestly,
put out a masterpiece.
Probably even when, like, in 2006, when Saturday Night Wrist just didn't do well, and you still have not all those bands, but some of those bands still maybe at their apex. They were just starting to descend. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. I mean, and that was a really tough time for Deftones. That whole few years was the dark times. But yeah, Pony, it certainly did. It lifted the genre, and it has certainly, I think, like you said, if you're into rock music, your favorite band is at least a little bit influenced by, or maybe has totally ripped Deftones, and you didn't even know it.
They may not even have known it. You're right, because they heard it from a band who ripped Deftones.
Yeah, totally. Which is cool. Like, I guess, that's the way music works. and that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like Fleshwater themselves getting to go out on that tour, like they totally are. It's because they're Deftones fans. Like that's why they're Fleshwater. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like that's you don't have to wrap your head around it. You know what I mean? It's right there in front of you. But that's the difference too. I feel like with Deftones is they're able to reach out and connect with that band or try to lift that band up or put them on. They'll do whatever they've always been that band that's gonna like. And so when other bands are citing them as an influence, I think that goes a long way with them because they always referred people to their influences. And
We'll take the Covers album. It's like that's how I heard about Jawbox. That's like what got me into them, and the Smiths and who else was on the Cure, Sade. Like, if you didn't know whenever that came out, 2010 or whatever, if you didn't know by then, you knew at then that they were cut from a different cloth. This was not industry plant shit. This was they're just true artists that
music nerds like the rest.
And that Sade cover is fucking untouchable. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. And talk about two voices that you don't really can hardly distinguish between. Like that's him and Jonah on that thing.
Yeah,
it's so true.
You can't even tell.
You can't tell.
You can't even tell the difference between those two.
In fact, I think it's on. If you look up Far, I think it's listed. Like a lot of people, I think don't even know the difference. You know what I mean?
I 100%.
And I might prefer that cover over the Jawbox version, to be honest with you.
The fact that they did those things though, that like those covers and point to their influences. I mean, some of it was born out of necessity too. Like just I know early on they started making a habit of doing covers so that they could have something else to play live.
Yeah.
But that it sometimes that's just how it works. And I always wish they'd recorded a cover of Saying Ain't So though. That that was like right around that era too. I think was the same. It was. I think it had to have been Pony era that they were doing Say It Ain't So.
I think it was just before.
Was it before?
I remember. I think so because I remember getting it on Napster. Which actually no, that would have been 2000. Yeah.
Yeah. That very short, that year that we could download stuff on Napster, allegedly.
The first time that I got to interview Chino, I asked him if there was ever a studio version of that song or if they'd ever considered it. And he just simply shrugged it off. He was like, "No, it was for its time."
There gotta be something recorded somewhere.
I think, I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth, but the Weezer legacy, I think, is a little different now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's for sure. Although he said that to me in 2012. Although I guess they probably even started by then. They weren't the Weezer of 96.
No. Yeah. Or even 2000.
Yeah.
For sure.
No hate. We love Weezer too.
I got the one time I got to interview Rivers. He and I did an Instagram live together during the pandemic, and I asked if because they didn't have anything to like promote, and I don't know why we were even doing the interview, just because I guess rock stars were sitting around with nothing to do at that time. I asked if he wanted to perform or if he wanted to sing anything instead of just doing a whole conversation, and nobody ever got back to me and said anything. The Instagram goes live and he just starts in to Say It Ain't So.
Oh, wow.
Breaks into it. He just starts singing it to me, and I'm just like,
I guess it's happening.
That's amazing.
This is awesome. This is the coolest shit ever. I love me some Weezer. They're good shit. But I digress.
Yes, but we had to mention that because of the love that Chino had for that song. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, Legacy. Let's wrap it with Legacy. Obviously we've talked about their legacy over the last hour, but they're as big as they've ever been. This record is probably the reason why. I mean, it's the foundation for the reason why. The stuff that comes after is also amazing, and that's why they're as big as they've ever been. But we don't get any of it, I don't think, without this record. And I look back on it I felt like I had heard it for the first time again today, even though I'd heard it a bunch, listening to it over the last week. It's a record that always sounds fresh to me.
I'm going to piggyback on that. It's a record I still haven't cracked. Like, I haven't cracked the White Pony code, and a lot of it is like, the cryptic lyrics and the nature of it. But like, I don't know. Talk about an album that just sucks you in, and it just paints a visual picture, and certainly the videos help. Not back to school video, but there's that intrigue and mystique that's still there. Even with the internet and all, I was gonna say, even with all the interviews with the band, they don't do a lot of interviews. They don't do a ton of press. You know what I mean? So there's still that cryptic. I don't know. It's like a movie that I'm like still trying to see if I saw the pieces coming before the big punchline at the end, which I haven't for this one. I still haven't, which is crazy.
That's a really interesting way to put it. And I feel that way to a degree as well, because there are songs, Change, for instance. I know why I think it's a good song, and I understand sort of what it does, what it's supposed to do, but it just still surprises me that like that is the biggest song that they've ever had.
It's that chorus drop, Woodbruh. The chorus
That's
drop.
what it is. Yeah, it's got to be.
It's like it reminds you of going up a fucking roller coaster, and then when they let the guitar hang a little bit before the big drop, it's the big drop. It takes you to a place that very few songs take you to.
What's the genre that like Skrillex is? I forget. I'm drawing a blank. It's late on the East Coast. Yeah, in that world where they have those drops and all those songs. Deftones did it first. Sorry.
No lie. No
lies detected.
I mean, it really does have a lot of elements of like strange genres of music, like across the whole album. You know, to have elements of like trip hop. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that it's got in there, whatever genre of music Pink Maggot is. Like,
yep.
Like people like swear that's their favorite song. Like people are like Pink Maggot, that's the one. I'm like, why? Like it's so not a normal song. Like it's like I love it too, but how is it so weird and haunting and like you said, it sucks you in, and yet you still can't quite unlock it. There's something that remains just very, I don't know, sort of elusive.
Very elusive. Well, it's like Street Carp. It's like what 664 615 665. I'm like, what the fuck is even going on?
I think it's his email address. He said he said he snuck his email address in that song, and shit. I think maybe somebody figured it out or nobody figured it out. But yeah, like, what the fuck is that?
This is the text that I sent you and Nate on Saturday, Twan. 25 years and I still don't know what any of these songs on White Pony are actually about. So I agree, I guess, is the punchline there.
Well, we know one of them is about electrocuting somebody with a toaster in a bathtub.
Yeah.
And then I think the knife party is actually about a knife party.
Yeah, I think I read that it was like, it's not typical to have like a violent take on sex or something, or you know what I mean? And that was, you know, the aggressive with the melodies, you know, that whole thing. Aggressive lyrics maybe with the...
That's so hot.
No.
Sexy Deftones. We came back.
I mean, for as much as I don't want the memes to be like the extent of the conversation around Deftones, they're still true.
Yeah.
They're still very accurate memes. It's dudes with beards and high socks and really sexy chicks.
Yep. That's the legacy. There it is. That's a mic drop.
Hey, speaking of cracking the code, if you know where the Scott Weiland feature is, let us know, because
I know, right?
I don't know it. I don't know.
Somebody out there has to know how to like isolate the vocal, like to pull that baby out.
Has to.
There's got to be some audio doctor that can fix that. I mean, I would love to hear it. Like I genuinely, Scott Weiland is one of the greats.
Absolutely.
It's probably the harmonizing and like, you know, and that's all right. Something like that. It's probably, you got to dig deep in it, in the song. But
we didn't even talk about RX Queen.
I know. Damn. That's the thing. That's the amazing part about this record. The amazing kind of lasting impression of it is that you could pull any one song and do this for half an hour.
Yeah. No shit. That's for sure.
Hey, I'm glad it's appreciated. And it's one of the records where I'm like, I don't feel bad about having fucking 6 copies of and their
right.
box sets. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, the visuals are there. They throw something at you, and then they did the Black Stallion. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm in. Let's go.
I know, and I think that Black Stallion record is actually really good. I quite enjoy a number. Some of them are definitely a little too different for me. I want to say like the Elite cover is a little bit not my lane, but a lot of those songs are really cool. And again, just speaks to like talk about legacy, that you could have such an eclectic and diverse group of artists tackle those remixes. Like that's, I mean, that's legacy. That's what I wonder though is, do Deftones consider their own legacy? And if so, like where, what, how do you even create anymore with your, like, what's
That's a great point.
Yeah.
What is your art? What's next for your art?
It's crazy. I mean, you spoke about Ohms earlier, and I listened to Ohms this past week. I was doing a full. I haven't listened to Ohms in probably a year, but I listened to it. I listened to the title track, and I'm like, this is a better version of Minerva. Like this album's Minerva, and I think it blows Minerva out of the water.
Wow.
Or
That's
hole in the world, or hole in the earth. That song. It's like that album's version of that song, and I think it's the best take on that single that they've ever done.
That's really cool. It's certainly a singular track. I mean, that they can continue to come up with tracks like that that are, you know, unlike, for as maybe as similar as you might think it is to Minerva, or whatever purpose that it serves for the album. Maybe
it's still different enough.
Yeah, you can't tell me that there's another Minerva in their catalog, or that there is another Ohms in their catalog. Like those are so standalone, and really, like, even if Pony defined their sound or maybe solidified their sound, like again, like there's no digital bath on any other record. You know what I mean? There's no.
It's true. Very true.
It's one of a kind. It's really one of a kind.
Damn. Well, we could go another hour.
I was gonna say, if you're mad we barely scratched the surface, then I guess it just speaks to the album. Like it speaks to the album, between the lyrics, the songs, the visuals, the swag the band had, the mysterious nature of it. Like you go on and on and on. But all-time album, all-time band. Woodbrow, we're gonna pitch your comp one more time. It's in the show notes, but for the song you saved, it's probably out now. Stream it. Keep an eye out for the CD.
Follow the Instagram, all that stuff.
You lived up to the internet hype, my friend.
We may have another little surprise coming when the CD comes out. There might be at least one more little gift to go along with the physical release. So hopefully people are staying tuned in and can check what all the artists are doing, because it's not just the album. Like dig in, find a song you like and dive into Ryle. You know what I mean? Like check out Another Heaven. There's a lot of really cool bands on the album, so hopefully everybody digs it and enjoys.
Hell yeah. So yeah, go follow, keep an eye on it. If you haven't streamed it yet, go stream it.
Thanks for joining us. We'll get you out of here. Listeners, we'll see you next week. I don't even know what's coming next week, but it's coming.
It might be another album, and it might be Suppose. I can't remember.
You're gonna love it.
It's great. I heard it already.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
See ya.
Peace, podheads. Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.